Whether your bank account balance was low, you forgot to make a payment, or the mail arrived late, missing a due date on a credit card or loan feels terrible. If you don't take quick action, a late payment can negatively affect your finances for years to come. This podcast will explain what happens when you make a late payment, how your credit gets affected, and tips to minimize potential damage. Plus, I'll answer a question from a longtime Money Girl podcast listener named Daniel S., who's trying to help his daughter boost her credit after missing several payments. Hey friends, welcome back to the 860th episode of Money Girl. If you're ready for more knowledge, resources, and motivation to manage your money in the best ways possible, you are in the right place. I'm Laura Adams, an award-winning author, money speaker, founder of the Money Stack newsletter, and I also work as an on-camera financial spokesperson and partner with select brands for PR and content marketing. As always, you can learn more, sign up for my newsletter, and email me at lauradadams.com. All right, so let's talk about how late payments affect your credit. You probably already know that not paying a credit account on time is a serious no-no in the financial world. But you may not realize how you pay your bills is the most critical factor that credit scoring models like FICO and VantageScore use to calculate your credit scores. Your payment history is what I call the king of credit because it typically makes up 35% of your scores. Now, there are other essential factors like your total debt, your credit utilization ratio, the number of accounts you have, and any recent credit inquiries. But none carry as much weight as your payment history. So a record of paying your credit accounts on time shows that you're responsible with money. It suggests that your good behavior will continue and that you aren't likely to miss any payments in the future or to default on your debt. But when you have late payments or accounts in collections, they indicate that you are not dependable and you may not repay debts regularly or at all. And the consequences are stiff. Even one late payment can drastically reduce your scores, especially if you have good or excellent credit to begin with. And it makes sense. Creditors and other merchants like insurance companies, landlords, and utility companies want to do business with customers who appear to be financially responsible. Businesses shudder at the thought of hiring expensive collectors and attorneys to have to go after past due accounts. So the better your credit, the lower your interest rates, insurance premiums in most states, and upfront security deposits will be. Dependable borrowers and customers with high credit scores get rewarded handsomely because lenders and service providers compete for your business. In addition to having a late payment added to your credit reports, lenders penalize you directly in different ways once you make a late payment. One is certainly charging a late fee. How much a creditor can tack onto your following statement depends on the agreement or the application you signed and the state where you live. However, I will say the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB, enacted a rule to combat excessive credit card late fees. So starting in May 2024, the typical late fee dropped from $32 down to $8. Car loans and mortgages usually come with a late grace period of 10 or 15 days, after which you get charged a fee that could be 4 or 5% of the overdue payment. If you continue to miss due dates, you'll pile hundreds of dollars on top of the amount you already owe. With credit cards, another penalty you typically face after paying late for 2 consecutive months is an increase in your annual percentage rate, or APR, that can go up to 29.99%. And by the way, that crazy high rate gets applied to your entire outstanding balance, not just to future charges. Additionally, they may penalize you by losing any accrued credit card rewards or taking away a 0% interest promotion offer. Now, if your payment is over 180 days past due, your creditor may sell your debt to a collector. Then the collection company will attempt to get the overdue balance and fees from you. Having a debt in collections is much more serious than having a 30 or 60-day late notice on your credit reports, and it causes a more significant drop in your scores. Like a late payment, an account in collections stays on your credit reports for 7 years from the date you first became delinquent, even after you pay that debt off in full. While you can't make a valid bad debt disappear from your record, paying it at least shows creditors that you honored your financial obligation. How much a bad debt hurts your credit depends on factors like your credit scores before the bad mark and the amount of debt you did not pay. However, as you make on-time payments and you add positive information to your credit reports, the impact of late payments on an account in collections lessens with time. Now, I want to talk about an exception to the credit reporting rules, which is when you have medical debt. For healthcare services you received after January 2022, the No Surprises Act prohibits debt collectors from reporting delinquent accounts to credit bureaus without trying to collect from you first. They must wait at least 12 months to report an unpaid medical bill to the credit bureaus. That gives you time to verify, dispute, negotiate, and pay a past due medical debt before it hurts your credit scores. Plus, starting January 2023, credit bureaus can no longer add medical debt of less than $500 to your credit report. In addition, unlike other types of delinquent debt that stay on your credit file for 7 years, a past due medical debt must be immediately removed from your history once you pay it in full. However, the consumer protections you get for medical debt don't apply if you use a credit card to pay for it. So if you can't afford a medical bill, never charge it on a credit card. You're going to be much better off negotiating a medical debt directly with your healthcare provider, who may offer a payment plan or a reduced settlement. All right, so let's talk about 4 tips to minimize damage if you have had a late payment. And let's talk about the question that I received from Daniel. He says, "Hi, Laura. I'm a longtime listener and fan of your podcast. My 27-year-old daughter moved to New York City 2 years ago to pursue a passion in the publishing world. While she has been punctual with all her bills, she had some personal issues this past spring, a breakup with a live-in boyfriend, and she stopped paying an $8,000 credit card bill for 4 months. When she embarrassedly admitted it to us, my wife and I helped her pay the minimum balance due, but her credit score had already received a big hit and is now 540. To make things worse, without a boyfriend paying his share of the rent, she has to find a new, less expensive apartment while her credit is down. Is there anything my daughter can do to repair her credit score, seeing that all her other bills have been paid on time? Is there a better chance to improve her credit if she immediately pays off the entire credit card balance?" Thanks so much for your question, Daniel. I'm really sorry that your daughter hit a financial rough patch. You know, it can happen to the best of us. So I'm glad that you and your wife have been supportive and are helping her out. And I'll answer your question by covering 4 tips that can help minimize damage to your credit scores after a late payment. So the first tip is to settle your account quickly. The sooner you pay a past due amount, the better your chances of squeaking by without any late fees or rate penalties. Creditors can't report a delinquency to the nationwide credit bureaus until 30 days after the due date. Your mistake won't appear on your credit reports if you get caught up before then. However, the creditor can still charge you a late fee. If you're like Daniel's daughter and don't get caught up quickly, and 1 or more late payments get reported to the credit bureaus, they stay on your credit reports for up to 7 years, as I mentioned. Unfortunately, even at your first time making a late payment, or you're always on time on other accounts, it will get factored into your credit scores and drag them down for a period, just like what happened to his daughter. Now, on the flip side, your on-time payments stay on your credit reports for longer. They stay for 10 years, helping boost your scores. So, the bottom line is you've got to avoid making additional late payments when you've already had some, bad marks on your credit reports. Note that if a creditor pegs you as late, but it is an error, you should immediately dispute it with the credit bureaus. Inaccurate or unverifiable information must be removed by law. However, if you were at fault for a late payment, the creditor is not obligated to retract it, even if you pay the debt in full. The purpose of your credit file is to reflect an accurate account activity history. All right, the second tip is to contact your creditor. If you get your past due amount settled, but you're disappointed to get charged a late fee, contact your creditor to discuss it. If your payment was late by accident, like getting lost in the mail, explain the situation and ask what's possible. Lenders and card companies want to keep good customers happy, so they may waive fees. I've had this happen to me when a check didn't arrive back in the day when I mailed checks, especially if it's your first late payment and you're very polite to a customer service representative. Remember that being rude or panicked never gets you anywhere when you're asking for a favor. Since Daniel's daughter missed 4 months of credit card payments, it isn't likely that they'll give her a break on late fees, but it couldn't hurt to ask for a portion of them to be waived. All right, the third tip is to make future payments on time. If your credit scores went down or you got hit with a high penalty APR after a late payment, as I mentioned, be extra cautious about never being late again. If you make 6 months of on-time credit card payments, your issuer must reset your interest rate back to the pre-penalty rate. Your credit scores will slowly improve as you build a history of positive information and the late payment ages. Credit models tend to favor new data more than old entries, so you want to be vigilant about staying on track. And the fourth tip is to create automatic reminders. If you made a late payment because you don't have a good system for paying bills, it's time to get organized. You could use a spreadsheet, calendar reminders, or a smartphone app to stay on track. Many financial institutions allow you to create email or text notifications to remind you about an upcoming due date. That's a great way to ensure a deadline never slips past you again. I always pay bills using my bank's online bill payment system, and then I double-check what I owe using a simple Google Sheet. So every bill and due date that I have to pay each month is listed on a separate row in the spreadsheet. And then each month has a column in the spreadsheet where I enter an X once the bill is set to pay online. So it's just kind of a way for me to double check that, nothing was forgotten. One strategy to ensure you never miss a minimum credit card payment is to set it up to pay automatically. Even making the minimum payment helps you build credit. You don't get extra credit for paying more than the minimum, but of course it is wise to pay your balance in full each month when it's possible so you don't accrue interest charges. Daniel asked whether his daughter's credit would improve faster if she immediately paid off the $8,000 credit card balance. Well, an important rule to boost your credit is keeping your credit utilization lower than 20 to 25%. So let me explain that. For instance, let's say your credit card has a $10,000 available credit limit and your balance is $8,000. Well, in that case, you have an 80% credit utilization ratio. So that formula is taking $8,000, your balance, divided by your available limit of $10,000, which is 0.8 or 80%. That's too high. A wise plan would be to reduce the card balance to no more than $2,000 or whatever 20% would be for your card's limit. Significantly reducing your credit utilization ratio is one of the fastest ways to boost your credit. So Daniel, she may not need to pay off the entire balance, but certainly if she can get that utilization to 20 or 25%, it's going to help a lot. To sum up, few people, including me, can say they've never missed a payment due date. No, it's not fun to slip up and get penalized, but you can't beat yourself up about it either. Just use the tips that I've covered here to minimize potential damage from a late payment, chalk it up to a learning lesson, and make sure it doesn't happen again. Daniel, thanks again for your question. And before we go, if you have a comment or question about money, please leave it on our voicemail at 302-364-0308. I'd love to answer it on a future show. And be sure to subscribe to The Money Stack, my weekly newsletter, when you visit lauradadams.com. It's filled with money tips, tools, news, challenges, things I enjoy, and more. You can subscribe for free or support the show by becoming a paid member and get access to live educational events. That's all for now. I'll talk to you soon. Until then, here's to living a richer life. Money Girl is a quick and dirty tips podcast, and I want to thank our fantastic team. Steve Rickyberg audio engineers the show. Brandon Gachis is our director of podcasts. Holly Hutchins is our digital operations specialist. Morgan Christensen is our advertising operations specialist, and Davina Tomlin is our marketing and publicity associate.